Oi punters, you're not going to believe this, but some lefty greenie is in complete and total agreement with a conservative Liberal Party politician. I don't believe it myself. Take a look. Wait, while you're there, hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. Helps the video. You probably already know this, but Australia is going to spend a lot of money on submarines. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? I made an Instagram reel about it. Let's take a watch. If you've seen it, skip it. We'll talk after. Sorry, I should just explain. I don't know if it comes across because the clip's so short. I was trying to flex my muscles because I'm American and I'm really strong. Subtle joke. Anyway, I had to explain it. Mustn't have been that good. Keep going.
She's a beaut.
Oh, and he's not checking him out. He's looking at the submarines. But I realized when I edited it together, it looked like this guy was checking. I was checking myself out, being like, nice. But anyway, back to it.
Booty, ain't she? Oh, yeah. This baby can stay underwater for as long as the crew can eat baked beans. And launch Tomahawk cruise missiles at range at any target you desire. Large countries in Asia, countries beginning with C in Asia, countries with 5 letters in Asia, you name it. You're talking China, right? Whoa, man, you're trying to get me canceled? All right, I like you Aussies, so how about I give you 6 of these for $368 billion? Whoa, that's
a lot of money.
I mean, for that kind of money, we could put dental and mental health into Medicare and build high-speed rail and cut the fuel tax outside and probably reduce.
So I'm trying to point out how much this actually is, because when the government keeps dropping, hey, it costs this much to do this, we don't know how much that means in real everyday life. We keep being told we can't afford ridiculous things like dental and Medicare, but those things are actually bloody cheap compared to what we're spending on these subs. So that was the point there.
Poverty? Hey man, you don't want to keep your country safe. That's on you. China. What? Nothing. All right, mate, you got yourself a deal. Fantastic. Just sign right there. You can expect delivery of these puppies in 2067. They'll be 82. Wait, you haven't built them yet. The UK will handle the construction. They guarantee they'll be able to deliver. Yes. But what if someone tries to attack us before then? Listen, I really shouldn't be doing this, but to tide you over, I'm gonna throw in my own personal Virginia-class submarine. There, you happy now? Now I'm losing money. You got a few spare? Oh no, we're actually short 17. But you'll still give us a few? Sure! If we don't need them ourselves and Congress approves it. What's that? Oh, don't worry about that. Here, just need you to sign this final waiver absolving the US and the UK of any liability or anything that might go wrong or not to plan, and that you agree to deal with any and all nuclear waste from your own submarines and the nuclear waste from that of a US naval fleet. Idiot. What? You have a blessed day, sir.
So that's just my brief summary of the AUKUS deal. I'm not going to go into whether we should have nuclear subs or not nuclear subs. Not really the point of the video. But I do want to go into whether this is a good deal for we punters. And back to the start. What the bloody hell could make a greenie in full agreement with a conservative Liberal Party politician? Well, is Senator David Shoebridge, who I believe is a spokesperson for Defence for the Greens. Let's hear what he has to say about this submarine deal.
So, to make enough nuclear submarines for Australia, they need to be knocking out 2.3. They're knocking out 1. I've got to tell you, that's some awkward AUKUS maths there, isn't it?
So America needs to be making 2.3, they're making 1, so they're not up to schedule is his point.
And when in the early 2030s, the US is going to be asked by Australia, please sir, please can we have some nuclear submarines? What's the US president going to say? We haven't got enough for our own purposes. There's no way we're going to be giving them to Australia. And hidden in plain sight in the legislation that's been approved for AUKUS in the US Congress is a kill switch. A kill switch that says if there aren't enough for the US, there's no way in hell they'll give any to Australia.
Sounds like we're not getting any submarines, according to David Shoebridge here.
And that is despite the Albanese government giving $4.7 billion of Australian public money to the US for US jobs and investment in US shipbuilding.
Greenies obviously think this is a dumb deal and a dumb way to spend money. So, who's the Liberal Party politician that is in complete agreement with this bloody greenie right here? You might have heard of him. Ex-Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. Probably not part of the Liberal Party anymore. I don't know, but he used to be. What's he got to say on the topic?
What do we know about the Virginias? The American Navy is short between 17 and 20 short of what they believe they need. Their industry is producing half as many as they need.
Where have I heard that before?
It is the most valuable and survivable asset. The American legislation says that before any submarine can be sold to Australia, the US President has to certify that their Navy doesn't need it. Competitive rivalry with China is increasing. What's Trump got on the tin? You know, America first.
So he points it out quite well. At least 50% of future presidents are very open about the fact that it is America first. Where does Australia fit? Not first. So if we need subs and they need subs, who are they going to pick? Themselves. This sounds like a dud deal. It sounds like a bad deal. It sounds like Albo's handing over a lot of money to potentially end up with sweet nothing. And if Australia ends up with sweet nothing, who are we wholly reliant on for national security and defending our country? Oh, it's the Americans. Now, you can decide for yourself whether you would like to be wholly and entirely dependent on the US. That's up to you. But I want to drill into this AUKUS deal. When you dig into the details of this deal, you'll find that the US and UK could walk away with a year's notice. Then we'd be stuffed. We get nothing. Australia is responsible for the disposal of the waste, the nuclear waste, currently of which we don't have facilities to be doing that. And guess who's going to be producing most of that nuclear waste? It's the UK and US subs that are going to be docking here. So we pay for that. That's you, punters. And Australia's going to cover the others for nuclear risk. So if there's liability, loss, damage, everything lands on us. And you know what else? Nuclear subs need nuclear fuel. Where must Australia purchase that nuclear fuel from? That's right, the US. They're the ones with it. There's not much of a free market in buying nuclear fuel. And if you know anything about US defense spending, it's very expensive. So this deal doesn't look very good. You got the Greens criticizing it on one side. You got Malcolm Turnbull criticizing it on the other side. But when I look at politics, I see this beautiful anomaly of complete bipartisan agreement. Albo is all for this deal. The deal that Scott Morrison himself, previous Liberal Party Prime Minister, put together. And then Labor roll in and Labor come in, and they're also fully for this deal. Fact checks welcome, citations necessary in the comments below. So if this is such a bad deal, what is it that could be unifying the political rivals of Albo and Dutton? They come together and hold hands on this and say, this is a great deal. It just doesn't make any sense. If it's a bad deal, why are they so united on it? I'll tell you why. Something to do with money. Thanks to Kangaroo Court of Australia here, Shane Dowling's reported on this. The Liberal and Labor politicians set to make millions from the AUKUS money train. There's a new gravy train rolling through town, punters, and it's the AUKUS submarine. And guess who's on board to make a lot of money from this sweet, sweet gravy train? Well, it's the politicians that created this deal. It's the politicians from both Labor and Liberal that have gone in to make money in the defense sector. Politicians surely wouldn't push through really horrible policy that costs punters literal billions of dollars just so they can secure themselves high-paying jobs in an ever-expanding industry. They wouldn't do that. Oh, wait. They have. So, Scott Morrison, Joe Hockey, and former WA Premier Mark McGowan are lining up to cash in on Australia's defence spending, which is expected to double and hit more than $100 billion a year. That's the saying, find the biggest pot of money you can and stand as close as you can to it. This is exactly what these bloody sellout politicians have just done. Let's take a look. So, Joe Hockey, ex-Liberal Party treasurer, has started a lobbying firm. Fancy that. And has employed ex-WA Premier Mark McGowan, one of his 4 to 5 jobs that he seems to have picked up after office after being so tired from serving the Australian public, and former Defence Minister Marise Payne. So Joe Hockey's lobbying firm that employs these ex-ministers is set and positioned to lobby and benefit greatly from the expanding military-industrial complex that is growing between Australia and the United States. So these politicians have left their office working for you, and they've gone to find the biggest pot of money they can, and that pot of money is called the defense sector, which is expanding. Now, who made this deal? Well, get a look at this sly little devil here. That is a man named Scott Morrison, the previous Prime Minister of Australia. Now, Scotty Morrison, you can't get more obvious and more underhanded than this. Former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison now works for American Global Strategies as a non-executive vice chairman. What the bloody, what are these jobs? They're just making up names. We don't even know what you do, mate. Really, what he's there for is political connections. That's what it should just be called bloke who knows people in Australian Parliament. That's all it should be. And we pay him for his political connections, which he spent a lifetime building, and now is the time for him to cash in on. But before he cashed in on it, he wanted to set up a really big cash cow that he could then ride the wave. So this good Christian man, what's he gone into? He's gone into the business of weapons, the business of war, exactly like Jesus probably would have done if Jesus became our Prime Minister and then quit to sell weapons. Scott Morrison also works for AUKUS investor Dine Maritime. So ScoMo sets up an AUKUS deal, which seems to be a pretty bad deal. And then he loses an election, quits politics, and pops up to be directly benefiting from a government deal he helped broker, and then months later he's working for that company? Will you tell me in the comments below, punters? Conspiracy or coincidence? For legal reasons, I wouldn't dare comment on that, but go ahead in the comments below. So ScoMo has taken 2 jobs in the US private defense sector. Christopher Pyne, former defense minister, he's been selling out his political connections for quite a few years, being a lobbyist in the defense industry. Christopher Pyne, chairman of NIOA, is a privately owned global munitions company. Sounds wholesome, doesn't it? So apparently they're investing in national security supply chain reliance in the UK, US and UK Australasian technology. But let's check out their website. All right. Is there an about us? Contact, I guess? Oh, I guess it's a web page with an email on it. Nothing seems dodgy about that at all. It definitely doesn't appear as if there's just some kind of investor shell company that knew a deal was going to be done and then invested in the right sector, and then you're working for that sector. I don't know. But as calming as this blue is, and as great as the irrelevant islands of stock footage behind it is, how many legitimate businesses have a one-page website that has only their business name, one paragraph describing their business? Shane, I've got to disagree with you there, mate, but I'd barely call that a paragraph. So you tell me, does that pass the pub test? I don't bloody think so. So Sydney Morning Herald has picked this up as well. That's great. A weapons supplier with more than 200 million in federal deals has emerged as one of the best connected companies in federal politics, with former Labor politicians and former Liberal ministers. Oh, would you look at that? There's Christopher Pyne there, and there's the current leader. Seems like a great relationship, doesn't it? So we've got politicians from both Labor and Liberal that seem to be standing very close to this massive pile of money that is to be expanding. And tweeted not too long ago, we've got a picture of our current leader here meeting with King Honcho lobbyist himself, utilizing his previous parliamentary connections for as much money as you can get, lobbyist Joe Hockey, who is doing some defense things as well. So what can unite a Green senator and a former Liberal prime minister? The fact that neither of them are close enough to this cash cow to be selling us out. But what is really something to note is that you can get the Liberal Party and the Labor Party to both sign off on what seems to be a pretty terrible scam that's being run on Aussie punters by the American defense industry. And there's a bunch of politicians currently in power looking out the door for the biggest pot of money that they can find. And punters, the biggest pot of money that you will find will be in the defense sector. So keep a sharp eye on Labor and Liberal politicians as they retire from representing you, and keep an eye on who they go work for and what industries they go work within, because meeting rooms that look like this is the norm. You have politicians looking for jobs in lobbying firms to make even more money than they currently do now. So how do you get the Liberal Party and the Labor Party to agree on something? You just make sure that every politician in either party knows where the biggest pot of money is and knows their best pathway to stand next to it. So massive thanks to We the Punters over on Patreon. These are the punters that keep me making videos that I think are important, and not just the ones that get the clicks. I've got a podcast that comes out every single Wednesday. Hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon so you stay up to date, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers, punts.